Oscar night, you'll find out what and who the Academy thinks are the best films and performances of 2013. But as I like to point out every year, you're not asked to vote, but you are asked to watch. And while you might feel, hey, I don't vote for the Grammys or the Emmys either, those aren't nearly as political as the Oscars. There's a whole intense campaign season that goes on behind the red velvet rope, which often leads to results that leave audiences scratching their heads. So once again, I've asked you, who are totally uninfluenced by the politics and career jockeying of Hollywood, to vote for who you think deserves to win the Oscar. And here are the results.
And the audience gives the Oscar to 12 Years a Slave.
Not even close, which is interesting because most people haven't even seen this movie. 12 Years a Slave is on the low side of the box office when it comes to Best Picture, with Captain Phillips, The Wolf of Wall Street, American Hustle, and Gravity doubling and more its domestic gross. Steve McQueen's stark telling of the realities of slavery didn't even get much of an Oscar bump, adding just $10 million to its haul after being nominated. If the Academy agrees with BTT viewers and 12 Years a Slave wins the top prize on Oscar night, will mainstream audiences then maybe go check it out? As for write-ins, many of you agreed with me regarding my choice for Best Movie of the Year, Saving Mr. Banks. Some of you also felt that Prisoners, The Place Beyond the Pines, Rush, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, and The Hunger Games Catching Fire were all more deserving of the gold than the 9 films selected by the Academy. And to think, the Best Picture category was expanded from 5 to up to 10 nominations after The Dark Knight snub to try and make sure popular films had a shot. But it looks like the Academy still doesn't respect large-scale filmmaking. What's it gonna take?
And the audience gives the Oscar to Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's time, damn it! This is one snub you can no longer stomach. Furthermore, you haven't been hypnotized by Matthew McConaughey's megawatt smile and good old Southern charm on the Oscar campaign trail the way Academy voters have. Of course, many of you are impressed with the 180 McConaughey has impressively navigated, and you championed him long before it was fashionable. But DiCaprio has been knocking your socks off on a consistent basis since, well, everyone seems to have joined the DiCaprio bandwagon at different points. What film finally won you over? The Aviator, Shutter Island, Inception, J. Edgar, Django Unchained? Or was it his latest, The Wolf of Wall Street, that made you see the light, which should be reflecting off his Oscar? If not DiCaprio, then many of you would have preferred to see Tom Hanks win this for Captain Phillips, Hugh Jackman for Prisoners, or my personal choice, Joaquin Phoenix for Her. In fact, so many of you wrote his name in that the 5 nominees sure lucked out that the Academy snubbed him.
And the audience gives the Oscar to Cate Blanchett.
It's all good when it comes to Cate Blanchett. The Academy wants her to win, you want her to win. And all this love is good for Blanchett as she has some blockbusters on the horizon where audience support is crucial. She'll provide the voice of Valka in How to Train Your Dragon 2 this summer and then plays the evil stepmother in Disney's live-action Cinderella next year. Come to think of it, Disney must be thrilled that she's getting an Oscar for pretty much playing Lady Tremaine. But as you can also see, you have plenty of respect for her peers, Amy Adams and Sandra Bullock, who have a slim chance for an upset here, also reflected by your votes. And yet again, we have another frontrunner in a movie that most mainstream audiences have not seen. So the next time a Woody Allen movie comes out in the summer, make sure you don't miss it because it's likely to be a major Oscar contender. You also felt overwhelmingly so that Emma Thompson deserved to be in this category for Saving Mr. Banks. Know who else you felt deserved a nod? J-Law for Catching Fire.
And the audience gives the Oscar to Jared Leto.
We have another clear winner here, and I think in this category, it's this clear with the Academy as well. I'd also wager that the Academy shares your love and admiration for Michael Fassbender and Jonah Hill, who are sure to have another shot at winning the gold, possibly in the near future. But again, just like with Matthew McConaughey, Jared Leto has pretty much been a lock here since the trailer debuted. Both actors' commitment to their roles, internally and externally, has impressed Hollywood and audiences. But is the Oscar some kind of Ripley's Believe It or Not award? Why did you vote for Leto? Was it for his performance or for his willingness and ability to go there? Or the community his role represents? Or maybe all 3? Perhaps sometimes we're more like the Academy voters than we'd like to think. As for write-ins, you agreed with the Screen Actors Guild that Daniel Bruhl deserved a nod for Rush, Tom Hanks again this time for Saving Mr. Banks, Jake Gyllenhaal for Prisoners, and 2 more unlikely choices. Harrison Ford for 42 and James Franco for Spring Breakers. Good choices. See, that's where we differ from the Academy. But who would you have cut from the list to make room for these guys?
And the audience gives the Oscar to Lupita Nyong'o.
This is the most hotly contested category, according to you. You just can't decide. Fan favorite Jennifer Lawrence or newcomer Lupita Nyong'o? As I noted in the Best Actress category, many of you wish that Lawrence was nominated there for Catching Fire. Is that to get her out of competition with Nyong'o? And if she does win here, will you Catching Fire fans be happy, even if it is at the expense of Nyong'o? Some in the industry have whispered that a win here for Lawrence is so unsympathetic that it could actually hurt her career. What do you think? And if you do think a win here would make Lawrence look bad, how should she handle it when she takes the Oscar stage? Sean Penn found himself in a difficult spot when he had a surprise win over Mickey Rourke back in 2009, yet he managed to accept his Oscar gracefully. We also never really heard from Rourke again. Will Nyong'o be equally derailed with a loss here? In terms of write-ins, Oprah Winfrey did get some love for The Butler, Scarlett Johansson for her, and very interestingly, Margot Robbie for The Wolf of Wall Street. Is she the new Michelle Pfeiffer or Sharon Stone?
And the audience gives the Oscar to Alfonso Cuarón.
If you thought the winners were clear beforehand, now we're getting into some categories where the other contenders barely even registered with you. Alfonso Cuarón, the Academy's likely pick for Best Director, is also yours, which just shows that Steve McQueen needs to get out there and do more interviews with the public. I would like to take this opportunity, though, to discuss a question one of you posed in another video. Why is nobody making a big deal about the fact that Cuarón would be the first Latino director to win for Best Director? After all, quite a fuss was made when Catherine Bigelow won. But I believe that's because, one, there are not only few female directors in the entertainment industry, but few women in top positions in any industry. So whenever the glass ceiling is broken, it's a big deal. Second, she went for directing an action-y film, which stereotypically is considered a man's genre. And Cuarón isn't nominated for making an overly Latino movie. He hasn't highlighted his heritage, so neither has the Academy or the media. I would liken a win for him here to Ang Lee's historic win in 2006 for Brokeback Mountain, where again, Lee's Asian heritage wasn't a factor in his filmmaking. But come to think of it, neither really was Bigelow's. That's how far behind women are, that we need to be cheered on when we actually win something. Snub-wise, you felt Spike Jonze should have been recognized for her, and the Catching Fire love continues, Francis Lawrence for the Hunger Games sequel. But don't worry, I'm sure Lionsgate has awarded him a nice fat check.
And the audience gives the Oscar to her, 12 Years a Slave.
When it comes to original screenplay, you clearly think Her rises above, and the Academy is likely to agree with you on Oscar night. In fact, as I've pointed out in my Oscar coverage, this is probably the only category that Her will win, which actually gives it the edge here, as the Academy likes to fairly divide up the Oscars. But over in adapted screenplay, you're more divided. Of course, you respect the work John Ridley did with 12 Years a Slave, but then you fell in love with Terrence Winter's work on The Wolf of Wall Street. Both men managed the Herculean task of paring down yet maintaining the integrity of lengthy, controversial stories. Ultimately, you went with Ridley, but such a strong showing for The Wolf of Wall Street, which the Academy could agree with, perhaps hints at some kind of upset in some category come Oscar night. For write-ins, you gave a nod to Prisoners for Best Original Screenplay, and for the Best Adapted Screenplay, again, The Hunger Games Catching Fire. Is this sequel this year's The Dark Knight?
And the audience gives the Oscar to Frozen, Let It Go.
Frozen! You love Frozen! I shudder to think what might happen on Oscar night if Frozen doesn't win in these two categories. At least you'll get to see Idina Menzel bring the house down with Let It Go. Maybe this is the dark night of this year's Oscars. In fact, which is your fan favorite movie of the year? Frozen or The Hunger Games Catching Fire? However, with The Wind Rises opening this weekend in wide release here in the US, I'll also be curious to know if any of you switched your vote after having finally seen it. But while that matchup is more genuine, Ordinary Love's potential upset is all politics. We'll have to see if the Academy is as enamored with Frozen as you are, and how you'll react if they're not. And those are your picks for the 2014 Academy Awards. Happy with the results? Be sure to share your thoughts down below. And as always, a huge thanks to everyone who voted, and I hope you'll check out the rest of BTT's Oscar coverage. It's an honor to be a part of your Oscar festivities.